You guys are so stupid. I can't believe I fooled all of you to thinking Mario was actually dead. Look at you idiots. If you've been a viewer of this channel for any period of time at all, you might be able to deduce by subtle clues that I'm kind of a big Mario fan. Out of the 68 videos I've made on this channel so far, a total of 15 of them have Mario in the thumbnail, and it's for good reason. Mario is so instantly recognizable and iconic. I'm willing to bet when I say video game, Mario is one of the first characters you'll think of, because this motherfucker was bored one weekend and decided that an Italian plumber walking back and forth and jumping on turtles was a good idea for a video game. Now, if you ask me, Mario during his first few entries of games was just in his incubator stage, and Nintendo was on the verge of changing video games as we knew them once more, and on June 23rd, 1996, that's exactly what they did. So, in honor of Mario's recent death / 35th birthday, I thought it would be fun to rank all of the 3D Mario games from best to worst in terms of my own personal enjoyment, so please don't kill me. Now, do keep in mind, I genuinely enjoy all of these games, and I don't think any of these games are bad. In fact, I would argue that Mario 64 holds up pretty well for the most part and still has better controls and more creativity than 90% of most modern games today, and is still a pretty enjoyable experience overall for me. Oh boy. I already know this first pick is gonna upset a lot of people. Now, I personally can't deny just how big of a landmark moment this is in gaming history, and even to this day, when I think of Mario entering a level, the first thing that pops up into my mind is there's just so many songs and levels and locations that are just permanently burned into the collective memories of gamers across the world, and the impact that this game had is still very much felt in modern platformers or just video games period. However, there's still some grievances that I have with the game that makes me question why people hail this game as such a masterpiece, when I personally feel like those people often overlook the flaws this game has because their nostalgia goggles are probably on way too tight. Now, I know this first complaint is one that's pretty common when talking about Mario 64, but it's one that I can't deny, and that's the camera. I do cut it some slack, since generally speaking, having a controllable camera in a 3D space was still a pretty new concept at the time, but all things considered, they still did a pretty good job for the time being. However, it still has some weird glitches and oftentimes doesn't move quite the way you'd like it to, and it just has some unfortunate limitations due to the time period it was developed in. It's ultimately just a byproduct of the technology they were working with at the time. Now, before I continue on about this, I'm just going to say this on the record right now. I am not particularly great at this game, but I did beat it, so take that for what it's worth, I guess. My second point here is that the physics of Mario himself are kind of wonky at times, and he feels a little too slippery for my taste. I don't know if the people who are really good at Mario 64 felt the same way initially, and later down the road it feels as razor sharp as they say it is, but as of now, Mario feels, again, kind of slippery to me, and the margin for error is a little too slim for my taste. It's just a little bit frustrating at times because of how much Mario carries momentum in the game, and it causes him to slip off platforms, which I do understand is one of the big reasons the game is so amazing to speedrun when you have a full understanding of Mario's physics. It's just very technical and is actually pretty entertaining to watch speedrunners at top level compete against each other for better times, since again the margin for error is so slim. Also, some of the environments aren't that smoothly designed, so it makes it feel even harder to navigate at times and can again lead to some frustration, especially in Cool Mountain. Don't get me started on Cool Mountain, fuck that level. My final complaint about Mario 64 is that some of the missions you have to complete for stars feels kinda inconsistent in terms of how enjoyable they are to complete. To me, sometimes it ranges from wondrous and exciting to frustrating and monotonous, and there's kind of no in between for me. Despite my grievances with the game, I still think it's a pretty enjoyable experience, and it's one that has a special place in my heart, but in my opinion is the worst out of all the 3D Mario games in terms of how much I enjoy it. Last thing I want to say before I move on to my next pick is that I think the gaming community correlates how technical a game is to the quality or enjoyability of the game itself, like how people can prefer Smash Ultimate over Melee. And I can personally appreciate when developers go out of their way to include some deeper mechanics for the player to dig into for those who want something more than what's presented on the surface. But I don't think how technical a game is should be such a big factor in judging the quality of a game, but having technicality to a game is always nice. Next game. Now, Mario Sunshine is probably the game in the series I have the most complicated relationship with. For most other Mario games, I usually have a pretty cut and dry opinion, but with Sunshine in particular, I have a really strong love-hate relationship with it for multiple reasons. But first, let me get the good stuff out of the way, starting with the presentation, and I gotta say, this game graphically has held up pretty well. It looks really solid for a game that's over 20 years old. Wait, Sunshine is 20 years old? Oh my fucking god, I feel old. Honestly, what needs to be said about the game's soundtrack that hasn't already been said? I mean, when you think of Mario Hub World, you'll most likely end up thinking of For me, Mario Sunshine's soundtrack is easily the most nostalgic out of all of them, and I'd also say it's probably the most experimental soundtrack in the series, while still managing to stay in the theme of the game overall. You'd think a game revolving around mostly beaches and tropical settings would have a pretty basic soundtrack, but it still has some songs that don't feel categorized or stuck to one genre, and is still pretty memorable 20 years later. Amazing soundtrack, and one that I'm willing to bet many fans will continue to listen to for years to come, which is no surprise. I mean, it's Mario we're talking about here. This game also manages to stick out from the rest of the games because, to me, it has a pretty distinct personality from the rest of them. It feels a lot more relaxed and comedic than most Mario games, and the story is arguably the most interesting in the entire series. It's not super complex or deep, but remember, it's Mario we're talking about here. Now, the thing that truly separates Sunshine from its siblings, in my opinion, is the gameplay. The way certain levels are designed makes the platforming itself feel like a puzzle, and you're essentially using FLUDD to put the pieces together. The developers did a really good job of taking one mechanic and just going fucking bananas with it. For real, FLUDD is the all-in-one package. The entirety of the game is designed around the use of FLUDD, so when it's taken away from you, you really feel the difference. A lot of people's major issue with Mario 64 is how non-beginner friendly it probably felt for people who were still new to video games, and the concept of a 3D platformer was still relatively new at the time, and it didn't really exist until 64, but the point still remained. It's very precise and can feel difficult to control, and it definitely didn't help that Mario decided to put on his fucking butter shoes that day. So in criticisms of Mario 64's difficulty, they said, alright, fuck difficulty, go break the game, no more complaining, you big babies, and that's exactly what we did. 20 years down the road and people are still pushing the limits of this game's mechanics and its potential for speedrunning, and it's still widely regarded as one of the most difficult to speedrun in the entire franchise, which is what makes it so entertaining to watch. It kept that fun and precise nature of the platforming gameplay in 64 and let you go fucking Jesus mode on them. So you said you had a love-hate relationship with this game, right? So where's the hate? This video is too positive! Don't worry, I was just getting to that. I mentioned in my criticisms of Mario 64 that the objectives ranged from really fun to really obnoxious, and I still have that same complaint here, except in this game I feel like both sides of that coin are cranked to 11. The fun objectives feel way more fun and enjoyable than they did before, but the ones that are annoying and tedious are way more noticeable than they were before. It feels like some levels were designed by a genius, and some feel like they were designed by a monkey with a GameCube controller. I think this game is at its best when it takes you through its environments using the FLUDD in a natural way, using the movement and various FLUDD attachments to enhance the way the player can interact with the level, so it feels like more than just a gimmick. Best example of this is on Serena Beach in the Star, where you explore the hotel. It's this long and intricate maze of small puzzles that require you to pay attention to the environment and use your tools at hand to think outside of the box to reach the star at the end. This level really gives me strong Resident Evil vibes. It's probably the best level in the entire game. In stark contrast, we have the pachinko machine, probably the most well-known and hated shine in the entire game, and for good reason. This shine is ridiculously infuriating due to how buggy and glitchy it is, and it is almost entirely devoid of anything that makes the game fun. Basically, the shine is stinky doo-doo dog water, and I hate it. The game is at its worst when its inconsistencies begin to show, and it'll feel like you're playing an entirely different game in comparison to the really good levels. It can just be really tedious to play sometimes, but I think my positive feelings for this game do outshine the hate for the most part, but man, when I hate it, I really hate it. But alas, it lands on number 4 in our games that are all amazing, but some are better than others, so I'm ranking them for fun list. Now I know this is going to be a hot take for a lot of you, but after replaying Sunshine and 3D World in the past year and thinking about both games objectively, I personally find myself having less gripes with 3D World than I do with Sunshine personally. Also, I commend this game for being the only 3D Mario game to have co-op that is actually fun, so just off of that premises alone, it gets some extra brownie points for me. And yeah, I'll definitely be the first to admit that this game definitely leans much heavier into 2D Mario territory than it does 3D Mario territory, but it exceeds Sunshine and Mario 64 to me personally because in comparison to those games, level design in a good majority of these levels are basically pitch perfect. Generally speaking, I just find myself to enjoy the average level in 3D World much more than I did in Sunshine and in 64. I also found this game's soundtrack to be much more enjoyable since I have a personal bias towards soundtrack that lean heavier into jazz, so take that as you will. This is also the first 3D Mario game that's in full 1080 60 and it looks absolutely fantastic, and I still think the Wii U doesn't get enough credit for how good some of the games looked on that console. Also, I think this is probably the second best feeling Mario game to me, and what I mean by that is that the controls on this game are razor sharp and I have zero complaints about how it feels to platform around these levels. Quick side note, if you're one of the cynical people that didn't like this game too much and played it by yourself, please, for the love of God, go give this game a shot in co-op with some friends or family, because if you have the chance, this game is a million times more fun with people. I highly recommend that you give it a try. I also really enjoy how this game takes that same chaotic energy of the new Super Mario Bros. Games with its co-op and translated it perfectly into 3D. And I should also probably mention that this is the Mario game with the best power-ups in the entire series, and that's not even for debate. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. Basically, this game is fucking sick and way better than you think. Go play it, dummy. One last thing I want to mention about this game that doesn't have necessarily anything to do with the base game, but 3D World is easily the coolest stage type in Mario Maker 2. I mean, this game has so much potential. It astonishes me how much clear time and effort they put into maximizing the movement, the tech, and the power-ups for Mario Maker 2. To me, this is a 3D World formula in its purest form, and if we get a 2D Mario game in the 3D World style, it would easily be a top 3 Mario game. Actually, everything I said before was all complete bullshit. The reason this game is so good is because they made Bowser a furry. Okay, that's why this game is so good. You know what you were doing, Nintendo. You knew exactly what you were doing. Bowser's Fury. I can imagine some of you might find it weird that I put the DLC for Mario 3D World higher than Mario 3D World, but when I see everything that Bowser's Fury brought to the table, and the potential this game holds for the future of Mario games, this to me is easily more exciting and interesting than 3D World ever was. And I gotta be honest, when the trailer first dropped for this, I didn't know what to expect after seeing what is easily the coolest design for Bowser ever conceived in a Mario game, but I gotta say, this game really took me by surprise in just how many incredibly brilliant and creative ideas it throws at you in such a short time frame. This is probably the best DLC I've ever played for any video game, ever. This is also the first Mario game to throw out the concept of a world map that takes you to each individual level in favor of just having one ginormous Chunky Kong sized world that's seamless and might be the big step to turning Mario into a fully fledged open world game, and that thought makes me super excited. For most open world games, you'll hop on a horse and traverse the world or use some sort of fast travel system, which is all good and dandy, but now Mario has come into the fray and Mario said, nah, fuck that shit. And not only did they make traveling the world itself fun, but they turned it into a mechanic within itself that further opens up the possibility of more flexible level design and makes more opportunities for unique stars, or in this case, giants. When you played Bowser's Fury, or if you did, chances are you probably beat it in 1 or 2 sittings because of how addicting the continuous feedback loop of exploring the world, collecting shines, fighting Bowser, and then doing it over and over again is, because I had a seriously difficult time putting this game down. It's really addicting and super satisfying to play, and it's all for good reason. Once again, that pitch perfect level design of Mario 3D World comes right back into frame, but now it's got a little more of that Mario Sunshine, 64, and Odyssey DNA thrown into it with some fun twists. If the newest Mario game looks anything like this, then I am absolutely floored and cannot wait for whatever comes next for this series. Also, come on dude, just listen to this fight music. If you tell me this game isn't at least a little bit Dragon Ball inspired, you're straight up lying to yourself. Just watching this footage, I can already see the subbed and dubbed version of these boss fights on Crunchyroll. This shit is amazing. Although personally, this game gets a lot of brownie points from me because it invented the term Super Saiyan Mario and made it into reality. So thank you, Nintendo, proving once again that you know exactly who your audience is. Also, yeah, I'm chilling. Go play this game. Have you ever heard the saying, a game is only as good as its soundtrack? If you haven't, that's because I completely made that shit up. Let's say for a minute that you, the viewer, know essentially nothing about the 3D Mario games, right? And I proceeded to play you this song. How good would you assume the game that the song is from is? If your answer is anything but absolutely amazing, then you're kind of a dumbass. I'm not gonna lie to you, this was easily the hardest decision on the entire list because I have a very strong connection to both of these games and I think both are fantastic games without question. You know, the other games on this list before the last two range from, hey, that's pretty good, to, oh shit, we get into the real good shit now. And with the last two placements on the list, we have officially entered the masterpiece zone. Alright, look, get some coffee, get some tea, popcorn, you know, whatever makes you feel comfortable, because I'm going to tell you a quick little anecdote of my childhood of when I realized Mario Galaxy 2 entered the masterpiece zone for me. Alright, so I want to say I was probably around 9 to 10 years old, and I had most likely come off the excitement of beating New Super Mario Bros. Wii for the third time, and you could just imagine my surprise when one random day I went to the local GameStop with my mom and I saw Mario Galaxy 2 on the shelf and I begged my mom relentlessly to get it for me. Man, I really do miss the days of when going to GameStop was actually exciting. Having the car ride home with the box of the game in your hands, that was just truly a different era. Anyways, I got home and stuck the disc on my Wii as fast as I could, and I played the game for a few hours until the night hit. My grandpa had walked into my room and asked me what I was doing, and I told him about this cool new Mario game I was playing. Now, in the game, I was about to beat the first world, but in my mind, I was about to beat the whole game because I was about to fight Bowser, so right there and then, I just kind of assumed that the game was gonna end. Just imagine the shock on my face when I beat Bowser, only for a whole new world to open up, and the experience from there was just pure, unadulterated bliss and joy. At this point you might be thinking, well, what was the point of that story? But here's the thing. While yes, that was mostly just me being a dumb kid and expecting the game to be so short, but the thing is that I enjoyed that first world so much that when I reached the final level of it, I was already ready to replay it over and over again, except I didn't have to because there was still an entire video game to play. There's very few video games that I'm more nostalgic for than Mario Galaxy 2, and to me, it represents Mario on its grandest scale. To this day, I still can't think of any other Mario game that has given me goosebumps while playing it. Just seeing this game for the first time as a child was just honestly a mind-blowing experience for me. Like, it was really something to behold back in the day. At that point in my life, my image of Mario was Mario on the beach and Mario with a cape, but everything changed when I decided to spin my Wiimote and that moment changed the concept of what Mario was in my mind and has since forever changed the way I look at video games. The previous 3D Mario games were both great games in their own right, but people had trouble with controlling the camera while simultaneously controlling Mario through these levels, so now the camera simply follows Mario and it allowed beginners to enjoy themselves much more. Again, one of my biggest gripes with the older games were that they had amazing levels and ideas, but a lot of the time they were bogged down by frustrating levels and tedium. It's pretty clear that Nintendo was just working out the kinks, and Mario Galaxy 2 is now the product of their hard work and experimentation. Also, I forgot to mention this earlier in the segment, but I'm throwing Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 in the same spot since Galaxy 2 is essentially more of Galaxy 1, and I have the same compliments and criticisms of both games, so they're both pretty equal to me. Oh, but in case you're curious, if I were to separate them, I would put Galaxy 1 in between Bowser's Fury and Galaxy 2 because, again, they're both of very similar quality to me, which is why I put them both on the same ranking. But I really do love the decision to experiment with space and all the possibilities possibilities it opens up and level designs and new physics with gravity and other elements of space, it really makes the entries stand out and it makes them feel more unique. In the older entries, it was all about the precise platforming, fun power-ups, in combination with a focus on exploration, secrets, and unique collectibles. This new focus on gravity mechanics, Mario no longer falls like a brick, he floats down like a feather, and to get from one place to another, you no longer jump or run, you glide. I mean, does anything else really need to be said? I mean, it's one of the highest rated video games of all time for a reason. Like, guys, it's Mario Galaxy. Name me any other Mario game where you can take control of a tree. I'll wait. Yeah, you can't, and that's why it's the best game in the series, you freaking moron. Just imagine this for one moment. You're extremely hungry, but you're not sure why. But you want to know why you're extremely hungry? Because you haven't eaten in days. I mean, come on, man. Don't you know how unhealthy that is? Fortunately for you, there's a new Italian restaurant that just opened up across the street that is apparently a new location in a very popular series of restaurants that is widely acclaimed all over the globe, and you've been hearing nothing but amazing things about those restaurants. You decide, yeah, you know what? I think it's time I spoil myself and get a nice meal. So you drive across the street and oh my god, thank the stars, there's one seat left in the entire restaurant and you got there just in time. You sit down, you order yourself some pasta, have a nice glass of wine, and you eat the entire meal in under a minute. And wow, that was some seriously top tier pasta, just the best Italian food you've ever had in your entire life. And you know what? You haven't eaten in days, so you decide to order something else off the menu this time, something completely different. You order a beautiful plate of lasagna in which the likes you've never seen in your entire life. I mean, wow, Garfield would just be jealous of you right now. It's so good. You're having the time of your life, and at that point you decide, you know what, I got some money, and surely enough, you end up eating the entire menu all in one night, and this is officially your favorite restaurant you've ever been to. But now that you've discovered everything there is on the menu, one of the servers approaches you with a new menu this time, and he hands it to you and he says, this is a second menu, a secret one that we only give to our most loyal customers. It has everything the first menu had, but it adds new elements to the dishes to make them completely fresh and original and makes them taste even better than the first time. And your mind is absolutely blown. This is what playing Mario Odyssey for the first time is like. Mario Odyssey, out of any game in the entire series, has the most consistent flow of new and interesting ideas that completely redefines what Mario as a series has the potential to be. I think for a long time, Mario was too bound by Nintendo to not get too weird in order to not scare away or confuse any potential new players to the series, until straight from the beginning, Nintendo has always been the company that was never scared to try and experiment with new and off-the-wall ideas, and with their biggest success, the Wii, they hit a perfect goldmine of something new and interesting that consumers had never seen before, while still bringing in innovation that at the time didn't feel too weird or forced because they designed it to be as beginner-friendly as possible. So they thought they could slap their letter U onto their next console and get away with it, but that experiment didn't go well, as we all know, and Nintendo learned from their mistakes, so they decided, you know what, let's just go all out with our most anticipated series and do something that nobody expects from us. With Mario Odyssey, Nintendo is once again reminding us who the king of left field is. Similarly to Sunshine, Odyssey doesn't have any traditional power-ups or weapons like most platformers would. Instead, they added one singular mechanic that is stretched out and utilized to its fullest extent throughout the entire game. By allowing Mario to control his enemies and other objects around him, this new set of rules opens up for Nintendo to get as creative and weird as they want, and it paid off tremendously. So many new possibilities have opened up with how they can design their levels, because now you don't just got Mario's moveset to work with, now you can be a Goomba, you can be a tank, you can be a funny looking dinosaur that flies, you can be a fish, you can be a tree. By giving us a consistent flow of new enemies and objects to take control of, it gives the player a new perspective to work with, to give them the freedom to want to explore each nook and cranny in the world. It rewards the player for going out of their way, for thinking outside the box, and using everything at their disposal to their advantage. You can just tell by playing the game that the developers put a ton of thought and effort into each world to make them feel unique and fun to explore. It always keeps the game interesting and does a wonderful job of keeping the player's attention by giving them an overload of of new mechanics and ideas. Even the hardcore fans of the series have something to chew on with Mario's new movement and transformations. In my opinion, Mario Odyssey easily has the highest potential for exciting speedruns by still giving us that trademark technical movement we've all come to know and love, but once again with these transformations, Mario can get around the environments much faster than any previous installment. If you know me personally, a common phrase I'll use when discussing video games is, variety is the spice of life, and Odyssey gives me all the spice I could ever want. It's just chef's kiss. The worlds range from beautiful, sunny, relaxing beach to The Nightmare Before Christmas to Dark Souls. There's almost never a dull moment, and that's partly thanks to the amazing soundtrack. Each song manages to perfectly capture the vibe of each location while still managing to feel cohesive and fresh with each track. It also notably dives into genres that the series has never ever been to before, and it just goes a long way to make this game feel different and refreshing from the rest. There's been a very clear pattern of Nintendo taking the best ideas of the previous games and just instilling them with as much sauce as possible. Every single type of Mario gameplay has come back in full force while not overstaying its welcome. It's just a perfectly balanced package that I honestly have little to no criticism towards. It's just that amazing. You know, when I play most video games, I'll usually beat them and think, you know what, yeah, that was pretty fun. I think I'll play this again another time. And that's perfectly fine, but I think only the best video games can make me play for 100 hours and make me go, yeah, I want more. To me, Odyssey is Super Mario at peak innovation, peak creativity, peak Nintendo, peak Mario. And the crazy thing is, if Bowser's Fury is any indication, the next game that approaches us could be something so god tier that will make me feel 12 again. I could not be more excited for what comes next. You know what though, honestly, considering everything we've been given from the series up until this point, I don't expect anything less because, I mean, it's Mario we're talking about here.